I come back to you now, at the turn of the tide. Hello everyone, Bob here. In this video we're going to take a look at the middle chapter of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. That's right, we're going to look at the Two Towers today. Now most of the cast from the Fellowship of the Ring returned, but we did have a few key additions. We had Bernard Hill as Theoden, Carl Urban as Éomer, Miranda Otto as Éowyn, David Wenham as Faramir. Andy Serkis made a brief appearance as Gollum in the Fellowship of the Ring, but he is even more so in this one this time. And Brad Dourif of Charles Lee Ray fame plays Grima Wormtongue. The story picks up where the Fellowship of the Ring ends. Boromir has just died and the Fellowship is completely splintered. Frodo and Sam are off to Mount Doom. Merry and Pippin have been kidnapped by some Uruk-hai, and Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli set out to try to rescue Merry and Pippin. One of the key differences from the books, specifically the Two Towers and Return of the King, but especially the Two Towers, in the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, the book, it's divided into two books, Book 3 and Book 4 of Lord of the Rings. And Book 3 follows Aragorn and company, so that would include Legolas, Gimli, of course Aragorn, and Merry and Pippin, where Book 4 follows Frodo and Sam and Gollum and everything that goes along with that. That is a big departure to how it is in the movie, where in the movie it jumps back and forth and tries to portray it as the events are occurring in a chronological order, so to speak. For the purposes of this review and plot outline, I am going to do it like it does in the book. I am going to focus first on Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and then I'll come back to Frodo and Sam. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli pursue Merry and Pippin as they are being as they have been captured and are being transported across the land. And Merry and Pippin manage to escape from the Uruk-hai when A, they fight amongst themselves, and B, they are under attack from a bunch of riders on horseback who turn out to be riders of Rohan. And we'll get to more on that here a little later. But Merry and Pippin manage to escape into a forest that's nearby called Fangorn Forest, where they run into a character that we are introduced to whose name is Treebeard, and he is an Ent who is a self-described tree herder. Treebeard decides to take the two hobbits, Merry and Pippin, to the White Wizard. Of course, we are led to believe that the White Wizard is Saruman. A little later, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli catch up to the where the Uruks were slaughtered by the riders of Rohan. Now, they have encountered these riders already, and the riders of Rohan include Éomer, who is the nephew to the king of Rohan, which is Theoden, which we'll get to more to him here in a little bit. But him and the rest of his riders have been banished from Rohan. So they're off riding away, and they happen to run into the Uruks in the middle of the night. But anyway, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, they catch up to him. At first, they think the hobbits are dead, but they're not. But they chase them. They realize they're not. They track them into the Fangorn Forest, and they eventually come into contact with the White Wizard, who at this point in time is revealed to be Gandalf the White, and he has returned from his battle with the Balrog of Morgoth. The two hobbits are at this point instructed to stay with Treebeard, who takes care of him and even takes him to an Entmoot, which is a gathering of the Ents. And Gandalf takes off with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and they ride to Edoras, which is the where the throne and everything is for the land of Rohan. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli ride to Edoras, which is the where the king of Rohan rules from, which is King Theoden, and of course Gandalf goes with him, and they go in and they meet this old miserly king, and Gandalf confronts him with the staff, drives out the evil, and the next thing you know, it's revealed that King Theoden has been under the spell of Saruman the White. Now there is a character named Grima Wormtongue who was also working with Saruman to try to control Theoden. And he is part of the reason why Aemir was banished. And he skedaddles out of Rohan when Saruman loses control over Theoden. Theoden attacks him, but Aragorn tells him that enough blood has been spilled on his account. And that is when King Theoden learns that his son Theodred has in fact been killed. Shortly thereafter, King Theoden learns that Saruman has unleashed a series of attacks on his homeland, and he decides to take the people from Edoras to Helm's Deep, which is this fortress where he thinks they can defend themselves there. Gandalf vehemently disagrees with this, and he ends up deciding to ride off and search for Aemir and his Riders of Rohan, which, as we said a little bit ago, was the king's nephew, and that they had been banished. Before Gandalf leaves, he tells Aragorn that look to his coming at the first light on the 5th day. At dawn, look to the east. During the trek from Edoras to Helm's Deep, Saruman learns that they will be slowed because they have women and children with them. He unleashes some warg riders to attack them. There is a battle. There are several killed. Aragorn gets kind of hurt and goes over a cliff. He is separated from him. They think he's dead. They have a moment when there's just kind of a moment where they think he's dead. And they kind of mourn the dead, and then Theoden says, "Leave the dead," and then they all move on. But we soon find out that Aragorn survived his injuries and the fall and everything, and he kind of has a flashback to when he was at Rivendell with Arwen, who, as you will remember from the first film, is the Liv Tyler character. When Aragorn comes to, he heads to Helm's Deep on his own. During his trek, he sees this vast army marching from Isengard towards Helm's Deep. He, of course, heads on. Of course, everybody's elated to see him, but at Helm's Deep, but he relays the information that there are 10,000 strong at least marching towards them. So they rapidly prepare for battle. There's this period of time where they're building up for the attack, where everybody's getting ready and the army marches closer. The elves come to help it would be from Lothlorien. It would be Lady Galadriel's people that come to help. But there's this period of tense build up before the actual battle starts, and once it starts, it is glorious. It takes place at night, and it is easily some of the best medieval style action sequences ever committed to film. It is a wonderful battle sequence to watch. I don't want to ruin too much of it for you, but I recommend you check that part of the film out. It is very much worth the watch. Anyway, eventually the Uruk-hai from Isengard break through the wall. The Rohan people and Aragorn and all of them, our heroes, all retreat back into the next, they call it the Keep. And it's basically like the next level. And what happens at this point is they just kind of wait and bide their time, and they're pretty sure they're going to die, but Aragorn looks out the window, and of course the sun's coming up, and he thinks about what Gandalf had said to him about, look to my coming at first light on the 5th day at dawn, look to the east. Well, he suggests they ride out and meet the impending doom, or how they suspect it, and Theoden is all on board with that idea, so they all ride out, and fight, and they make it out of the Helm's Deep and into the battlefield. At that point, Gandalf neighs up on top of the hill, and he says, "Theoden King stands alone." Then Éomer comes, rides up on his horse, and says, "Not alone." And then the whole riders of Rohan come up, and they attack, come over the hill and attack. And that basically is the climactic sequence of that whole battle. Moving on, Frodo and Sam are trying to get to Mordor, and they keep having trouble. They keep getting lost in this land called Emyn Muil, which is this labyrinth of razor-sharp rocks, as Gimli referred to it in the first film. But they keep going in circles. They keep getting turned around and lost. After realizing they're being followed, and Gollum decides to make his move, who is the one following him, they manage to capture him. And they make a deal with him. Sam thinks they ought to leave him or kill him or something because he doesn't trust him, but Frodo takes pity on him. And he decides to make him a deal that he will lead them to Mordor because they obviously can't find it on their own. So Gollum leads them to Mordor. And once they're at the Black Gates, he begs and pleads with them because he knows they'll get caught if they try to go through the Black Gates. He tells them there's a secret stair, a secret way into Mordor. And they decide. Sam doesn't like the idea, but Frodo decides to trust him. Frodo and Sam are captured by Faramir and some of his Gondorian soldiers. And he eventually, he's trying to figure out who they are and how they know who Boromir and everybody is and everything, because there's a conversation that there's a lot more to that, but they don't catch Gollum, but Faramir enlists his helping, tricks Frodo into helping them capture Gollum, and Gollum feels betrayed by this, so he spills the beans and tells Faramir exactly what Frodo is carrying. At this point, Faramir decides to take the ring back to Gondor and use it for themselves. They go back to towards Minas Tirith, but they stop at the city of Osgiliath, which sits on the river, and of course it's under attack and everything. And at that point, Faramir has a change of heart and decides to let Frodo and Sam go. And Faramir doesn't know about letting him go take the secret stairs, and he's concerned about it, but decides to let it go anyway. Flip back over for a second. There's a scene at the end where Gandalf and Aragorn and Theoden and everybody comes riding up over the hill. It says, "The battle for Helm's Deep is over, but the battle for Middle-earth is about to begin." The last scene of the movie is they're going through the forest, Ithilien, and Gollum is having a fight between his different personalities because he's hurt and he wants revenge for being captured, and he decides they will let her do it. Of course, we don't know who her is, but we will in the Return of the King. And that's how the middle chapter of the Lord of the Rings trilogy ends. The Two Towers came out in December of 2002 and it outperformed the first film at the box office both domestically and internationally. All the action pieces in this film were bigger and more intense than the first film. And like I said a little bit ago, the Battle of Helm's Deep is one of the most impressive medieval-style action sequences ever put on film. Now, if you're familiar with the books, you'll know that there are other parts of the book, The Two Towers, that are not in this film. Peter Jackson and company decided to include those in The Return of the King because the events of that take place during the battle for Minas Tirith and some of that other stuff that happens in that movie. So they decided, for timeline purposes, to fix it to where that all happens during the third and final film. Now, unlike the first film, the first half of this one seemed to drag a little bit for me. I mean, there's a little bit of exposition and stuff. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but I didn't care for the first half of this nearly as much as I did the whole part of the first film. Now, the second half, when you get into the Helm's Deep and all that, those sequences are excellent. if you were to look at it from the film in two halves, and if you've seen the extended edition, the first half would end right when Frodo and Sam are captured, and then everything after that, being the second half, that second disc is superb. Or the second half and the second disc, everything on that one is great. First half, in my opinion, everything in that film benefited greatly from the extended edition because those extra scenes helped flesh things out and added some moments of humor and moments of sadness too in a few appropriate places. But it worked so much better with those extended scenes, and I like this is one of those rare instances where I will give an extended cut of a film a significantly higher grade than the theatrical cut because I feel like the 40 plus minutes added to this film really helped it. Performances are good all the way around in this one. Visual effects are just as good, if not better, in this one than they were in the first film. And ironic as it may seem, the music in this one is probably my favorite, which is kind of a reason I say it's ironic is because this is the one that wasn't nominated for a lot of awards musically. Fellowship of the Ring and Return of the King were both nominated for musical awards. Now, I'm not talking about Gollum's song during the end credits. I've never really been a big fan of that song, but the actual score music, as far as I'm concerned, The Two Towers is the peak of the trilogy, and maybe that's one of the things that helps drive the score of this one for me up to higher levels, even with the Helm's Deep and stuff. Generally, I consider The Two Towers to be the weakest of the three films. And maybe the music is why I give it a grade somewhat close to the others. I don't know. But the music in this one is great. And I'm thinking about revisiting the Lord of the Rings music and talking about the music in The Two Towers in a future Voice of the Movies episode. My final ratings for this film, the theatrical cut, I'm going to give an 8.5 out of 10, and the extended edition, I'm going to give a 9.5 out of 10. Like I say, I don't dislike, and the theatrical cut is a good movie, but to me, the extended edition improved on that by quite a bit, and it was a big, significant step forward for me. A little last minute humor here. I was reviewing this video at the last second before I clicked the upload button, and I realized that I had neglected to review the 4K. I'm very irritated at myself, and hopefully anybody watching this gets a good laugh out of the jarring change in wardrobe and different camera used and the whole, but it just looks different all the way around. So hopefully everybody's getting a good laugh out of it. So The Two Towers, like the Fellowship of the Ring, it looks incredible on 4K. Is it perfect? No. I mean, there are some instances where I believe there to be some digital noise reduction and some scrubbing of the finer details in an attempt to get rid of grain, but as a whole, it's the best this has ever looked. I mean, the colors really pop. The film looks incredible on the format, and it has never, and judging by the fact that this is probably the final format that this will be released on, this is probably the best this film will ever look on a home format. Now, audio-wise, it sounds incredible. I could not give these a higher rating audio-wise. Like the Fellowship of the Ring before it, it's a perfect score. It is very much reference quality, especially the Battle of Helm's Deep. But like I say, 4K is the way to pick up this film. I know you got to get the set, and the set's expensive, but it is far and away, if you have the capability to watch it in 4K and have a Dolby Atmos set up, it is far and away the best way to view this film. That's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please stay tuned here in the next 2 or 3 days sometime. My fingers are crossed that I can get the Return of the King video uploaded. It's done. It's just a matter of finding time. My internet's terrible. I got to find the time when I don't need it for something, and I can get it all uploaded and not handicap me to where I can't do anything for work or anything else, because it takes literally all day to 36 hours to get one of these things uploaded. So, because these three videos, the the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, the Return of the King, they're all 25 to 30 minutes, so it takes forever for me to upload them. So, but anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. Please subscribe to this channel. And for now, this is Bob signing off.